Okay, I'm recording right now, you guys. So you've laid out your paper and it's ironed nice and flat, and the lengthwise is pointing out in front of you, and the width is extended out across. It's 34 inches wide. You need to draw a straight grain line down the center of the paper, and you want that grain line to be on the grid. I'm going to use a Sharpie, so hopefully that'll help you guys see things a little better. So I'm using the grid and I'm drawing my line on one of those grid lines. So these grid lines come in handy for that. And make sure you use a ruler. So you definitely need a ruler and a pencil or a pen, whatever you're most comfortable working with. You're going to need something as fabric weights to use. So I am going to try to switch the camera for you guys. All right, so that's my line. So now you're going to take your pants and you're going to always work with the right side. So I'm looking at my pants, and this is my right side. If I were to hold the pants up to me, so I'm holding the pants up, this is my right side. So that's the side we're going to work with. You always drape and make patterns on the right side of the body. So you're going to fold your pants like this. Right on that crotch line right here, you want to fold that seam right on it. You're going to fold the back waistband down. So because the back waistband is probably higher, should be higher. So I'm just folding that down so I can't see it. Because we're only going to work with the front first. We're going to be tracing these pants, and we want to trace the front first. So I'm folding it nice and flat on that crotch line. And there's the inseam line, I'm folding it on that. And I'm just tucking the back of the leg and the back seam out of the way, because I only want to see my front.
Excuse me, Amy. So the right side of the pants is facing out?
Hang on, I'm going to turn my air conditioner on. It's hard for me to hear. I'm sorry, what's your question?
So you said always work with the right side of the pants, right? So when I fold it, I face it out. I fold it so it's facing out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to be looking, we're just doing the front. So you're going to fold it in half. With the right, you want to fold the right side out. And you want the front facing up.
Okay.
And then you're going to match this. This is your side seam here.
Yeah, so you're matching the sides.
Yeah, you guys can't see it very well. You see the side seam. So this is my side seam. My hand is along the side seam.
Right.
And here's my line on the paper. You can see it right here. that
Right.
side seam is going to get matched up to the line on the paper.
Okay.
So the tricky part is just, so now over here on my side seam, I have to fold this in. Because if you just lay it to its own volition, the way it wants to go, it's going to push out to the back. We only want to see the front, right?
Okay.
So do you see how I just tucked it under? Because there's a seam right here, right? Your side seam.
Yeah.
You want to only have that side seam sticking out. You don't want part of the back. So if I open up my pants like this,
Yeah.
my side
Yeah.
seam's right here, and I don't want any of the back portion sticking out. I only
Well,
want the front portion showing.
I think my seam is in the inside of the leg, not the outside of the leg.
Oh, so you don't have a side seam.
I don't have a side seam.
Okay, then that's fine. So
Okay.
you'll just fold it. You'll just fold it based on the inseam here.
Okay.
And wherever it lands on the side seam, you're
Yeah.
going to push that up against that line on your paper.
Okay. Yeah, because the stitching is on the inside of the leg.
Yeah, we're going to make the same kind of pattern. We're not going to have a seam
Okay.
either on the side. That's why that line is there.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it's fine. It makes it a little easier to differentiate front and back, but it'll be okay.
Okay.
So I'm just tucking in. I'm doing more tucking here because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that back leg to show either. So the
Right,
other
right.
leg, and you guys, I have fabric weights, so I'm gonna actually use my weights. If you don't have weights, if you have a tape dispenser that you can just set like this on top,
Okay.
or a jar of something heavy. If you want to go to the hardware store and buy those flat, what are they called? They're like flat metal. They're when you're screwing in a screw, you can buy them they're like a facing, they're flat and round.
Oh, yeah. I
Those
forgot.
make really good fabric weights too.
Washers.
Washers, yeah. You can go get some of those and they're cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not absolutely perfect. Some of my seams, I'm not, because my leggings are really worn. So they aren't sitting necessarily perfectly flat on there, but I've done a pretty decent job of laying it out. I'm trying to show you. And I've left some room at the bottom of my pattern right here so I can make my leggings longer. So I want to make them longer. I know you guys have short pants, so that doesn't matter so much to you. Up at the waistband, you definitely need to give yourself about 4 inches up here.
Okay.
Because we're going to add for the waistband. And if you want the waistband to be the same as what your pants are, you're only going to need to add like 2 inches. But if you want to make the waistband higher, then you'll need to add 3 inches or 4. I mean, just depends what you want. You're the designer. So I'm going to add 3 inches to mine. So I just want to make sure I have enough paper up here.
Huh?
Does anyone have a question?
No.
So we're just working with the front right now. And we always work on the right side. So you just fold your pants in half so that your front is right side up, the right side, and you want to push back all the seams. So you're only showing the front pattern piece. All these little seams all in the back have to be pushed over. So I have just like a perfect pattern piece right here with my leggings laid out nice and flat. And I'm using this guideline here that we drew to line them up on. So once you've done that, once they look like this, you have enough pattern paper here and enough paper at the top, and it's nice and flat, and you've pushed all the seams in, then you can take your marker or your pencil and you're just going to trace around it. So tracing, I'm starting down here. When you trace off a pattern or pants, you make dashes. You do dashes. So even though I'm going to add to the length, I'm not going to add to the length now. You want to trace the exact garment. I'll add later. So right now I'm just tracing, and what you do is you just make dashes like this. So see my dashes?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Dashes, dashes. They're like an inch apart. My dashes are kind of messy. I'm not that, see, that's what they look like. I'm not that much of a perfectionist. We're gonna be it's called truing up the lines after we get it traced out. So it doesn't really matter how pretty it is, we'll true it up later. So I'm just gonna finish my crotch here in the front and my waistband. My waistband has a little bit of a curve, but I'm gonna just ignore that because we're not gonna do that curve. We're just gonna use our straight line. So I finished tracing the front. That's pretty easy. You wanna make a mark here at the crotch. You wanna put a notch, just one notch like that. That shows you that's the front. So now I'm done tracing the front. That was pretty easy. So I can take.
Amy, can you show the notch part again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's right there.
Oh,
So
that's what is that again?
that tells me that this is the front pattern piece.
Oh, front. Okay.
Yeah, so front is always one notch and back is two notches. So right now we're just tracing and then we'll true up the lines later. So let's trace the back now. So now I'm going to take my pants off. This is what I have. I've traced, and that's what it should look like. Now I'm just going to take my pants, and I did the right side. And now I'm just going to turn it over, and I'm going to do the back of the right side. So we did this side, right? Our right side, the front. So now I'm just going to do the back of that side. So I have to fold it the other way now. And now I'm going to line up the side seam of the back on this line on this side. So I'm going to use this line as a guide again. Oops, I left my iron down. Okay, so everyone should be getting their back lined up. So it's the same thing that we did in the front, but now we're doing it with the back. The back is a little bit different. I'll walk you through it. So you can start with that seam on the back butt. I'm right here, working right here. This is my back crotch seam here at the center of your butt back there. So I'm working on that seam. I'm putting it nice and flat. I'm working on my side seams. And I'm making sure that my side seams are pushed out all the way. So you don't want to go with however it just lays. You want to make sure your seams are pushed out all the way. Maria doesn't, and Melissa, I don't think you don't have side seams, so you don't need to worry about that. You'll just lay it flat and you'll use the inseam as your guide. So there is a trick on the back. So you'll notice when you're laying them out flat, that on the back, you can't get this crotch seam laid out, right? This crotch seam, it's back here. It's right here. And if I lay my pants flat, the seam is like an inch folded. So that's an inch that I'm losing. So I need to account for that. Does that make sense to you guys? So when we trace a garment like this without cutting it out, I mean, the easiest thing to do would be to just cut it up, right? To cut the seams up. But I'm trying to show you a way to do it without doing that. So this is the folding and tracing technique. So we can fold on this seam allowance, right? On this seam right here. And we can fold our side seam, but this back inseam, if we lay them out flat, if you roll it back, you'll see your seam is right here. I'm not able to get it laid out. Does that make sense? So look,
Now it makes sense.
my
Yeah.
seam is here, and when I lay it flat, I
It's
can't
hidden.
I can't lay it out. Unless I were to cut on the seam, then I could lay it out. Do you see how that makes sense?
Yeah.
If I trace it just like this, I'm losing a whole inch. If I just trace it like that, I'm losing that inch that's folded underneath. So I wanted to try to make that clear. So we're going to compensate for that. I'm going to show you how to do that. So Maria, if you fold your leg back like this, like I just did, do you see your seam right
Yeah.
here? Yeah.
Yeah. I see it now.
So we're gonna compensate for that, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna put my camera back and I'm gonna line my side seam up on the paper. And if you want to use pins, you could use pins to help hold your pants in place to keep the top and the bottom together. I'm kind of just using the fabric weights right now. So now I'm just lining up my waist. So the top of my back waist is, I'm lining it up with the top of my front waist. And I'm lining up my side seam on the line. And if you're accurate with folding and lining up the seams, you'll get a better fit. The less accurate you are, the less your fit will be accurate. Okay, so now I have to fold this under a little. I don't want any of the back of my leg exposed. I mean the other side of my leg. I only want the right side. The left side is staying tucked under. So now I think I'm pretty good. I'm laid out pretty good. I have it lined up on this line right here, my side seam, and my waistbands are matching. My length is a little bit off, but that's okay. I'm just gonna copy what I had on the front. So we're gonna trace the same way we did the other side, but we have to add for the inseam up here that I was telling you about. So go ahead and measure what the difference is. So to do that, you just lay back the pants and I'm just measuring the difference. Mine is like 3/4 of an inch. That's folded underneath. So I'm gonna add 3/4 of an inch. So you're gonna use your ruler like this. And we're just gonna add, using the tracing technique,
I showed you. 3/4 of an inch. All the way down. So whatever you have, if yours is an inch or a ½ inch, whatever the difference is, that's what you're gonna add all the way down.
Amy, mine is 2 inches.
Yours is what?
2 inches
2 inches, okay?
from the crotch. Is that right?
So when you fold this open here, the seam is 2 inches inside.
Yeah, it's actually an inch and a quarter. No, an inch and 3/4.
Then that's what you should add.
Okay, all the way down.
Yeah, all the way down.
You know, when I go down, it goes down to 1 inch.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it kind of
Tapers down?
tapers. It
If you
tapers.
can taper it, just the
Okay.
way it is on your
Okay.
hand, because mine's the same all the way down.
Mhm.
If yours is tapered, then you should
Do it the
Taper
same
it.
way. Okay, got it.
so hope you guys are seeing this. So this is what I have now. I'll roll this back. I have my trace line. I added all the way down, so that's what it looks like. And then here on the crotch, I'm just gonna connect it right here. I just drew a line like that. And then now I'm gonna trace. Up. So I finished tracing all the way around. I did the rest of my waistband. So now it's connected. I did the crotch right here, and I just extended the crotch to meet where I added. And I'm gonna draw in my 2 notches right here. So I have 2 for the back. Just like I did on the front, I'm doing on the back. So I pulled all my weights off. And I'm gonna put my pants aside. I'm gonna turn my air conditioning back on, so it's kind of loud. So if you guys have a question, holler. How's it working for everyone? Is it coming along?
Yeah, it's coming along.
So this is what it looks like. It should look, yours should look something like this. Maria and Melissa are gonna have wider legs, probably shorter. But we're not done. Raj, since you have pants that aren't stretch, what you're gonna have to do with the waistband up here is you're gonna have to pull your pants out and measure. So when your pants are laying flat, they're gathered, right? That's not the measurement that's not the pattern that you want. You want to know what it is when it's pushed out flat and not gathered. So I think the best thing to do is pull the pants. Let me get my Raj, you could just trace your pants where you can lay them flat, and then up here at the waist where it's gathered, you're gonna pull it out like that so it's flat, and you're gonna mark it. Okay, and then you're gonna connect the dots. So you'd be tracing your
I
leg.
did that.
You
Mhm.
did? Okay, good.
Yeah,
And then you just pull it
But-
out like that, mark it, and then connect. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
mm.
Okay. She figured it out. That hopefully it'll work. So now, does anyone have any questions? I'm going to show you how to true it up and add all your labels before we move on. Okay, so the cool thing about this pattern is we don't have to sew a side seam. So there's not going to be a side seam. It's just one piece. It's one less thing to sew. In the factory, in the garment industry, they love making patterns like this. Obviously, they save money. It's less fabric, et cetera, et cetera. The fit gets compromised when you do it like this because you can't shape it up here. But when you're using spandex and stretch knits, it doesn't matter so much. So to true it up, we use different types of rulers. Some of you have taken pattern making classes with me in the past, and we've done this, so it might be a review, but some of you haven't. This is a hip curve, and this is traditionally you use this to get the, the curve of your hip or your waistband. You can use it on the crotch too, right here, on the sleeve, on an armhole. This is a French curve, and this is for the crotch. It's for the sleeve, for your armhole. It works really well for your armhole, for necklines. Make all those curves. There's different types of hip curves. This is a very hip curve. I have another hip curve that's shaped a little differently. I think this is primarily used by people in New York. The other hip curve is used by people here in LA. But I know you guys don't have these tools, so we're just gonna make it work with the ruler. Hopefully you have a ruler like this. These are awesome because we're gonna be adding seam allowance, and you can just see the 1/2 inch and just add your seam allowance. Just works really well. If you don't have a ruler like this and you have this kind of ruler, we'll make it work with this ruler too. So I just wanted to show you those tools. We do have those tools in the makerspace, so when we get back in the makerspace, we can use them. So first, I'm just gonna label it. This is my front before I forget. And this is my back. And you can give it a title. You can write your name at the top. Usually you would write the company at the top. So I'm gonna write Glendale Library front. I'm gonna call this yoga pant, like that. And you can put the size on it, whatever your size is. I'm just gonna put size N, and then you put the cut. So it's gonna be cut 2. So this is standard. You would put the company, you would put whether it's the front, the back, sleeve, collar, that's what this label is. You put what the garment is called, yoga pant, the size, and the cut. And I'm just gonna put that on both sides. It's good to be in the habit of doing this. You probably only need to do it on one side, since it's one pattern. And then you always put a box around it. That's another industry rule, put a box. So I'm just gonna use, I'll go ahead and use the wooden ruler. Do any of you have this kind of ruler, the clear graphic ruler? Or do you guys all have like regular rulers? Oh yeah, that's nice. That might be a little bit hard though, Maria, because it's too wide. It's better for quilting. You need a ruler that's narrow so that you can go like this. If you're comfortable with that one, then fine, use it, but a narrower ruler is better for this application. I'll just use this one to show you guys that you can do it. You can start anywhere you want. I'll start here. What you do first is you true the lines and then you would add seam allowance and anything else. So I'm going to stick with the rules and we'll do that. So you use your ruler like this. You line it up and you connect the lines. And actually going like this, you can turn the ruler back and forth, however it works best for you. You want to kind of work like this and twist the ruler and connect the lines, or if you want to work like this, it's up to you. But you're just manipulating the ruler like this to connect the lines and get a nice, the goal is to have a nice smooth line. So obviously we're not working with the proper tools, so our lines aren't going to be as perfect, but we're going to do our best. And then down here on the hem, I'm just doing I just did a straight line right across. And now I'm just working up to the other side. So on the back here, there's a lot of curve. So now I'm turning my ruler to the short end so I can get more of that curve. It's kind of just a matter of getting, see me? Okay, so I'm moving the ruler in smaller spaces so I can get that curve. When the lines are straighter, it's easier to use the long end. So now I'm in this tight little curve right here. Yeah. So I'm using the small end of the ruler and I'm just kind of working it around like this and using my marker to true that line up and get it as smooth and straight as possible. And, you know, keep the integrity of the curve. The waistband has a bit of a curve too, but not so much. You just don't want to draw a straight line across. You want to keep that curve. So you see how I was able to keep the curve? And now I'm on the front crotch and I'm using the short end again so that I can get into these tight little curves. And there it's done. So now she's trued up. Now all I have to do is add to the waistband and add to the hem. Now that's where I'm gonna switch. So Maria, you could switch to your quilting ruler to add on. It's so much easier to use this ruler. This is a 2-inch ruler, so all I have to do is, well, 2 inches wide and 18 inches long. So if I turn it on the long side, all I have to do is put it on the 3 here. I just match up my line with the 3 and I can just go like this and add my 3 inches like this. So you line up the line on your ruler with the line that we traced, and then you just create a new line that's 3 inches above it, just like this. That's how you add on to the pattern. So now I've just added my 3 inches here with the
Okay.
ruler like that. And again, it's dashes. You're just using dashes. And that's how you get the curve. When you're drawing a straight line, if you just draw a straight line like that, you're not going to get the curve. You want to do dashes. So now I have to connect. So normally you would use your hip curve here to connect these 2 lines. But I'm going to kind of make it work with my ruler. I'm not going to make it straight line. I'm going to kind of shape it up a little bit. This line is pretty straight, so I'm just going to make it straight. And then down here, I'm going to add 3 inches as well. And connect. And now I have to add seam allowance. So I added my length. If you guys are keeping your same length, then you would only add a 1/2 inch. I added 3 because I wanted mine longer. If you're going to keep the length, then you only need to add a 1/2 inch for your seam allowance on your hem. On the waistband, if you want to keep the same waistband that you have on your current pants, then just add 2 inches. I'm adding another inch because I want my waistband to be higher. So if you want it the same, add 2. If you want it higher, then you can add whatever you want. So the last thing now is adding our seam allowance around the edges. So again, I'm using my clear graphic ruler. I can just lay the 1/2 inch line in and go like this all the way around. But if you don't have one of these rulers, you can use your regular ruler too and just lay it out like this on the 1/2 inch and go all the way around like this, curving it along the edge. Like that. So after we're done adding our seam allowance all the way around, then we're going to cut it out. So hopefully you guys have your fabric because it looks like we'll have time to get it cut out, and that would be great because next week we're probably not going to have enough time to like sew the whole thing and cut too. If you don't have your fabric, then that's fine. You can just watch the video, or you can watch me do it today and then just cut it on your own at home for homework. But definitely wherever we finish today, I need you guys to be finished up to that point next time we meet so that we can all sew together. So I finished adding my seam allowance all the way around. And now it looks like this.
Amy, I have a question.
Yeah,
My waistband, it's not really straight. It kind of goes down in the front. Maybe it's a higher in the back and lower in the front. Should I
Yeah.
just make it
so
straight?
right here, it's
Yeah,
high, right here.
yeah.
So they don't meet here.
Oh, they do meet there. It's just that in the back of it kind of goes down.
Yeah,
Like
no,
where the
the
front
back,
is
the back's supposed to be higher.
higher. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the back's supposed to be higher because it allows for your butt.
Right, right. Okay, so
Yeah.
I just kind of basically you know how yours looks like a straight line. Mine really dips.
It really has a stronger dip.
Yeah,
Yeah, mine is not straight. It is, my
It is.
back is about an inch higher than the front, but yours
Okay.
might be a lot higher.
like
You
an
have-
inch and a half. Only maybe an inch and a half. So that's fine, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That just means your pants have a better fit. They're probably
Okay.
higher waisted than mine.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
the pants that I used to trace have a really low waist.
Okay, got it.
So
And
if your
so-
waist is higher, your back is probably a lot higher than the front.
Right. And so and if I like the length or how it falls, I just add 2 inches, right?
Add 2 inches, yeah. Can you
Okay, got it.
can you hold it up and show it to me?
Yeah. So I don't know, it's in pencil, unfortunately.
Oh, it's in pencil.
Sorry.
I probably won't be able to see it then.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit.
So, yeah, it's light right now.
That's okay. I can't see it.
Okay,
But yeah, don't worry. There's nothing wrong with that.
okay,
And if
good.
you like your waistband height, then you don't need
Go
to
with it.
add more than 2 inches. It's not gonna look exactly like the waistband on your pants though, right?
Right, it's fine. Yeah, because I'm just gonna put like a little elastic thing. But that's fine. I like how high-waisted it is. Okay.
Sorry guys, I'm just changing my shoes. Okay, now I'm back. All right, so any other questions? All right, so now we'll cut. Let me just show for the recording what it looks like. So that's what it should basically look like, your pattern. You don't have to write all of this information on this side, just back is the only thing you really need. But yeah, so that's what mine looks like. I added 3 inches, but if you're just keeping your length, then you only need to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I added 3 inches on my waistband, but if you're keeping your waistband, you only need to add 2. There's 1/2 inch all the way around. And this is your side seam, and we're not going to be cutting that at all. That stays. So we're just cutting this one big piece out. So if you remember, I showed you what the pattern looks like at the beginning. It's just one big piece. So I'm just cutting. Make sure you use paper scissors because you don't want to ruin your fabric scissors along my seam allowance line. And then you can save your scraps of paper. I don't know, we usually, in the design room, you're not allowed to throw anything away. You can save them, roll them up, use them for scratch paper or labels or whatever. So remember we made these notches. We want to make sure that you don't lose the notches. So I still have my notch here in the front, and then there's 2 in the back. It's always good to have those notches so you know where the front and the back is. So some of you might have pants that have a side seam. Like I think Maria said hers don't have one. My leggings had a side seam. So again, just to let you guys know, we are skipping that side seam in this particular technique. So it can alter the fit a little bit, but like I said, I made a sample using this technique and my pants had a side seam. It didn't really make much of a difference. So, but just so you know, that could make a difference. And like with Raj, I'm not sure on your pants how much of a difference it would make. All right, so here's my pattern piece. It's all done, all cut out. And now all I have to do is lay out my fabric, prep it. And so when we prep our fabric, we want to iron it. If it's wrinkled, you want to make sure all the wrinkles are gone. And the selvage edge, you want to clip into the selvage edge. So with knits, they do have a selvage edge. I know they're not woven, but fabric. So this knit fabric, they don't have a selvage edge, quote unquote, but they do put something on the edge that holds the fabric together. So this one has like glue. You can't really see it on the camera, but there's glue on the edge here, and that glue kind of holds the fabric on the edge together. My other fabric, you can see on this fabric. Well, this fabric, this is the selvage edge. The edge that has their printing on it. This is designed exclusively for Joann's. It's got this white edge and it kind of rolls up and it's been punched with something. That's your selvage edge. So you still want to clip into that and release it a little bit. It can make a difference in your fabric. It will hold your fabric tight. So I'm going to put my pattern aside and I'm going to lay out my fabric now. And I'm going to show you guys how to cut it. I know some of you have already done this with me many times, so it might be redundant, but I'll show it to you guys, to the new folks. And then we'll cut it out, and then if we still have some time, we'll sew the inseam. So my fabric is a bit wrinkled here, so I'm gonna iron it a little bit, you guys. Here. So Raj or Melissa or Pauline, do any of you have your fabric? I know Maria does.
No, I'm watching you. I will do next time. I will cut later.
So Raj, no fabric?
I have fabric, but I'm watching and then I will cut later.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Melissa, do you have your fabric?
I do have my fabric, but I think I'm gonna watch first before I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you get it?
At Joanne's.
The Glendale one?
No. I forget which one. I kind of turned into a fabric hoarder though. So I got it a long time ago.
Oh, okay. So it's hard to iron knit fabrics, I know. So if you can just, mine was really wrinkled right here, so that's why I attempted to kind of get it out. You guys probably won't have to iron yours. So you want to, again, always be mindful of the knit fabrics, even though they're not woven, you still want to apply the same rules of grain line. So this selvage edge is my, I'm going to call that my length grain, and I folded my fabric lengthwise. I folded selvage edge to selvage edge. There's not really a right side on mine. You guys, you'll want to do right sides together. Mine is, it does have a right side actually. The back side, you can tell it's like the back side of a knit. And this is the right side of the knit. So yeah, I'm folding it right sides together. Good thing I checked that. And lengthwise. Hopefully my fabric is wide enough because the pattern is really wide. So if you're worried about having enough fabric, don't clip into your selvage edge. Just leave it because you might need it. Okay, great. I am good. I have fabric. So I'm just going to do a few clips to make sure it's released. You want to clip all the way through whatever the band is on the edge of the fabric. If it's blue or the printing. It might even help get some of the wrinkles out. So now that the fabric's laid out nice and neat and flat, I can put my pattern on it, right side up. And you just want to make sure that you have fabric underneath. Like sometimes the fabric's not the same length on this side. So you want to make sure that there's fabric, 2 layers of fabric underneath your pattern. And this line that we drew in the center, our side seam line, that's going to be our grain line. So I want to make sure this line is parallel to my selvage edge. Selvage edge here. So I just want to quickly, it's hard to eyeball it, measure the distance and make sure it's the same all the way across. It's not. It's not, so I'm gonna turn it a little bit. That's better. So now it's even, and I can put my weights on. Or if you want to use pins, if you don't have weights. And now I can cut. So I'm going to make my notch right here. I'm just gonna do a little 1/4 inch snip, so I know that's the front. My table's not long enough, so I'm gonna just, I don't want to do it like, gently pull everything down. Of course, that's not happening. So I'm just gonna readjust my pattern. Okay, so just need to cut the bottom now really quick. Line up properly. So after you cut out the pattern, then put your pattern away. And the first thing, so we still have time, so I'm gonna get us going on the first step for sewing. First thing we're gonna do is the inseam, the seam right here and on this side. So I'm gonna grab, so I have my two sides, I have my left side and my right side of my body. So I'm gonna pull them apart. And take one side, the other one, I'm gonna fold it right sides together. And I'm gonna pin the point of the crotch. So this is that curved J shape on the crotch right here. I'm gonna match those 2 points together and start pinning them. So this J shape here, the crotch, we're not pinning that. That's sewn differently. This is the front. You can see the knot. Notches here, that's the back. So we're gonna sew that separately. This inseam, that's what we're sewing right now, this long inseam. So I pin that point first, and then I pin the bottom, the hem. That's the way I like to do it. And then I pin the center. So I matched the 2 bottom points and the 2 crotch points. Similar to the way we did the pajama shorts. And then I pin all the way across the center. So you guys, you want, for homework, you're gonna have your pattern done and cut out your pants. And then I want you to get your manuals for your sewing machines and make sure you know how to find the stretch setting on your sewing machine. You can use regular thread and regular your regular needle on your machine. Don't worry about any of that. You just want to get your manual. If you already know the stretch knit setting and all of that, then you're good to go. But yeah, you guys will need to figure that out. If you don't have a stretch setting on your machine, then I know people use a zigzag stitch. So that's what I would recommend doing. And since we don't have serger access, I'm just planning on pinking. I pinked the edges on my sample and it worked really well. The pinking shears worked pretty nicely on this stretch knit. So I recommend pinking shears. I think most of you have them. If you don't, I recommend getting them. If you don't have them, then get a serger. No, just kidding. If you want to get a serger, you can. If you're not going to pink, then I don't know. I think maybe I would just have you trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch and just leave it. If you wanted to go over the seam again with a second zigzag to kind of hold it, and keep it together, and a little more strength, you could do that. Pinking shears actually worked really nicely. They look pretty good. Seams. So I'm almost done pinning this whole, depending how long your pants are. If they're short, then it won't take you as long. And we did 1/2 inch seam allowances, so that's what I'm gonna go sew on my sewing machine. So I'm gonna have 2 of these inseams to sew. This one and then my other side of my pants. So again, I know you guys sometimes get confused and you want to sew this J-shaped crotch. You want to sew that to this together here. You want to pin this. Don't do that because this J shape, when you open it up, that's going to get attached to the other leg and that's going to create the crotch. So this doesn't get sewn together. I want to make it clear on the recording. They don't even match because they're 2 different things. This does not get sewn together. They don't even match. This piece and this piece won't match because this gets attached attached to the other side of the pants, and this gets attached to the other side. So they're not meant to be sewn together. We're just sewing this inseam part right here. And then you're gonna sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I want you guys, I would love for you guys to start sewing with me next week, because why don't I just get a poll right now? Do all of you have stretch settings on your machines?
I think I do. I have to look for it.
Melissa and Pauline, or Pauline's gone. Raj left, okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end here. Because if you guys have some issues with the stretch setting, if you wanna go ahead and sew this, you can. But if you wanna wait and talk to me about it, you can too. So this needs to be sewn a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the stretch setting. And depending on your machine, the stretch setting will kind of adjust for you. Like, well, actually you can choose the stitch width on it and the tension and the length. So I made my stitch length really small, so it would make a really tight stitch. I'll show you. So if you want to experiment a little bit for homework, I'm hoping you guys can see. So this is my stretch stitch.
Okay.
Out of focus and then in focus. Come on, focus. Ah. There we go. For a second. Anyway, you can see it's like a teeny zigzag stitch, but when I pull on it, it moves. So that's what you want. 'Cause
Okay.
if you use the regular straight stitch, when you pull on it, it'll rip. So the whole point of the stretch stitch is it allows you to pull the fabric. Not too much. I mean, if I pulled really hard, it would probably rip, but it does have some give. So that's that. Any questions? Part 1 of yoga pant legging.
Actually, I do have a question. When you're cutting the fabric, I know you fold it in half so that you'll have 2 on each side. It doesn't matter if it's wrong sides facing together or right sides facing together, right?
It does matter.
It does matter.
Always right sides together when you're
Right sides together when you fold it. Okay, when you cut it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just kind of get that in your head. Right sides together. Right sides together.
okay. I'll write down. Got it.
And that green line, the line, the side seam line, I'm calling that a grain line, that should be parallel to the selvage edge.
The selvage. Okay, got that too.
Yeah, so when you get your fabric, fold it lengthwise. So it'll probably be like 50 some inches wide
Right.
and 36 inches long if you get a yard. So you're gonna fold the 56 in half.
Okay. Got it.
Melissa, do you have any questions? Well, I can't wait to see your pants because you guys are doing more like the cool yoga-y pants. I'm doing the 1980s legging.
I hope it works out.
Yeah, I'm gonna end the recording because
Okay.
I think I'm done.